So, former Union Finance Minister and a prominent lawyer, Mr. P. Chidambaram, has joined us today to discuss about the vaccine manufacturing and the distribution strategy and the way ahead for this country. So, he's one of the member in the opposition who is giving foresighted advice to the government. Thank you for joining us, sir. So, the first question I'm going to ask you is that the government says different. You have been criticizing the government for different pricing of these vaccines to the private players and the state and central governments. So, and you have suggested an alternative by invoking that compulsory licensing thing. So, can you please explain this? How this will reduce the cost of vaccines, and also if there will be an legal hurdles, if there will be an intellectual property infringement?
See, no manufacturer can be allowed to sell the same product, the same quantity, the same dose at different prices to buyers. Besides, this is a very, very important life-saving vaccine and can't be treated like shoes or shirts or trousers or salwar kameez. You can't have different prices for central government, state government hospitals, and private hospitals. So it is plainly discriminatory. The distinction is completely invidious, illegal, and you cannot allow such prices to be fixed. These prices are being fixed because there are only two manufacturers, and they have what we call a virtual duopoly. There are only two manufacturers of vaccines in India, and they are exploiting the situation in India. We cannot allow the manufacturers to do that. That is why the law allows the Indian Patent Act, made after the TRIPS Agreement and the Doha Declaration, which allow the Indian law to provide for such contingencies. Indian Patent Act has sections 92, section 100, and section 102, which allows the government to invoke compulsory licensing in a national emergency like an epidemic or in larger public interest of a non-commercial public use. These are very well defined and understood terms in law. Even if the government threatens to invoke compulsory licensing, in my view, the two manufacturers will fall in line. Mere threat is sufficient. They don't have to actually grant a compulsory license. But if the two manufacturers don't fall in line, the government should simply invoke compulsory licensing and license either a private player or a public sector player to manufacture the vaccine. Of course, both Serum Institute and Bharat Biotech will get a royalty for every dose. Even at 150 rupees a dose, according to Mr. Poonawalla, they're making a small profit. Imagine the kind of profit they will make at 600 rupees and 1,000 rupees and 1,200 rupees. This is exploiting a national emergency.
So they are saying that they want to scale up the vaccine manufacturing to the larger populations. So that's why they need this, pricing to manufacture more vaccines. So how do you see that argument?
This has nothing to do with the pricing of the vaccine. Serum's capacity is, I think, about 100 million a month, and Bharat Biotech's is 10 million a month. If they want to scale up capacity, they can ask government for a capital grant. And government can give the money. And Serum has asked for 3,000 crore. And I have said, if the Congress was in government today, we would have immediately sanctioned the 3,000 crore and then sat down and negotiated with them, whether it will be equity or a term loan or a quasi-equity or a subordinate debt. We can discuss those things later. But the government should straight away give a grant. Why should the pricing of vaccine, which will ultimately be passed on to the citizen, be the mechanism to enhance production capacity?
Okay. some of your allies from the CPI are suggesting that the government should, manufacture vaccines from the PSUs all across the country, so that the vaccine prices will go down. So they have a huge capacity. The PSUs have a huge capacity. So do you agree with that?
Capacity to manufacture a vaccine does not mean they have the technology to manufacture a coronavirus vaccine. This is a patented product. This is after months of research. They're the two patent holders in India today are Bharat Biotech and Serum. So how can the public sector vaccine company manufacture the vaccine without a license? That is why I say a compulsory license is the only way out. And I repeat, even a threat of a compulsory license will make the two manufacturers fall in line.
So, from May 1st, Government of India allows everybody from the age of 18 to get vaccinated. But the thing is that the government will not be doing this for free. It will be only done in the private hospitals. So they have to pay much higher amount, almost around 600 per dose. So many states are opting for universal free vaccination for adults for all above the age of 18. Many epidemiologists also suggest this will be the only move to curb the virus spread. So, do you think this will, by saving lives, also will recover the amount spent on this vaccination program?
What do you mean by saying state government will foot the bill? Who is the state government? State government is the people of the state. Which are the finances of the state government? Whatever the people pay as taxes. So whether you call it state government will foot the bill or the people will foot the bill, ultimately it's coming from the pocket of the citizen. Why should a citizen, either directly or through taxes paid to the state government, pay 600 rupees to 1,200 rupees per dose of vaccine? For a family of 4 or 5, if they have to be vaccinated for 2 doses, it's going to cost them nearly 10,000 rupees. Why should they pay? So I think the price is the critical factor. The price must allow a reasonable profit for the manufacturer. Mr. Poonawalla is on record saying at 150 rupees he makes a small profit. All right, give him a little more profit. Fix it at 200, fix it at 250. But why allow them to indulge in what is called price gouging at 1,000 rupees and 1,200 rupees? So there's no such thing as a free vaccine. Somebody has to pay. But why should we pay to the two manufacturers? That is the question to be asked.
Yes, Mr. Chidambaram, I agree with you that the price should be come down. The manufacturers should reduce the price. My question here is that the state should pay, whether the state or the central government should pay for the vaccination of all the citizens above the age of 18, so that the mass spread will be reduced. A community, there will be a overall immunity will be developed against the virus. So some epidemiologists say this is the only way out of this virus, and some of these economists are opposing this move. Said that it will, draw a huge amount of money, and this will, loss incur to the states. So, but some other people are suggesting that spending on vaccines will help the economy in the longer run. So, how do you see this?
Both the epidemiologists and the economists are wrong. The epidemiologist says what he says has no connection with the economy. Who pays is not the concern of the epidemiologist. His concern is how many vaccines are administered and how quickly are the vaccines administered to the population. So I don't think we should seriously consider the epidemiologist's statement on economics. The economists again are talking about if you spend money, the state will go bankrupt. There's no such thing as a state's money. It's the people's money. The state does not bring money from heaven. It takes it from the people. So whether the state pays or the people pay, it's the same. Question is, should an individual pay or should it collectively come out of the tax revenues of the state? The correct thing to do is to come out of the general revenues of the state, where the The rich pay more and the poor pay less, and the state will then decide how to spend that money. The central government has already allocated 35,000 crore for vaccination alone. If you do the arithmetic, 70 to 75 crore people can be administered 2 doses of vaccine, and the total cost will not exceed 35,000 crore if the price of the vaccine is kept reasonable at about 150 or 200 or even 250 rupees a dose. So the arithmetic is very clear. The money is there, it has to be spent. If you spend more on vaccines, of course, you will spend less on Central Vista. You will spend less on the Mumbai Ahmedabad bullet train. You will spend less on some completely outrageous, unnecessary projects which are intended to satisfy the ego of somebody. Stop all that and spend on the vaccines. So I don't think the economists are right in making a distinction between state spending and the individual citizen spending. According to me, both are the same.
Okay. So, as a former minister, how you see this Narendra Modi's government managing the second wave of the COVID pandemic? So, what went wrong in this governance?
Everything went wrong. The day Mr. Modi declared that we have defeated Corona, the first mistake was committed. Nobody in the world, no prime minister, no president has claimed that the country has defeated Corona. How does Mr. Modi know that there will not be a second wave or a third wave? Then all the ministers celebrating, saying the whole world is appreciating Mr. Modi's handling of the epidemic. Just read what newspapers abroad are writing. New York Times, Economist, Guardian. Yesterday, the Australian, the largest newspaper in Australia, so the High Commissioner has to issue a bitter response. The world is laughing at us. The world is sorry for the Indian people, but the world is mocking the Modi government. Everything went wrong. They didn't plan at all. Planning is detailed planning. You have to sit down and ask yourself all the questions, all the related questions, the linkages of the related questions. There are 1,000 dots in a plan. You have to join all the dots. Take oxygen. What is our manufacturing capacity? What are we manufacturing? How do we transport the vaccine in tankers, in cylinders? Do we have enough trucks? Do we have enough logistic arrangement for transport it? Where do you store it? How do you distribute it? How do you deliver it? How do you allocate it to private hospital, public hospital? There are 1,000 dots in a plan. If you don't know to join the dots, you are unfit for planning. And that is what the Modi government has proved. It simply did not recognize there are 1,000 dots in a plan, and it did not sit down and join the dots. The Modi government was busy campaigning in Bengal and elsewhere.
Okay. My last question to you is that even after this, Narendra Modi government's COVID mismanagement, the party is confident of winning the Bengal elections. So, how do you respond to that?
I don't know what the results will be.
Do you think that will be the case?
How can the ruling party predict the results of an election? Do they know something which you and I do not know? Do they know something which the Election Commission does not know? I mean, I'm raising this question. It raises grave suspicions. I think that the elections will throw up mixed results. The BJP, with its allies, may win in a couple of places, but I think the non-BJP parties will also win in a couple of places. No definitive conclusion can be drawn from the elections as to whether the people approve the Modi government or disapprove the Modi government. On balance, the entire people of India, to the extent I know, are very, very angry with the Modi government for the way it has completely mismanaged the pandemic and has brought India to the brink of a catastrophe.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.